To another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Really thrilled and honored to have our guest on today. He's Justin Melo from the Draft Network. He did a preview of the Sunbelt. Justin, thanks very much for hopping on Locked On Sunbelt. And how are you?
Pleasure's all mine, man. Really appreciate you for having me on. I'm doing well, man. We're getting back into the swing of things here, right? Football season's on the horizon, so I certainly can't complain.
Absolutely. All right, so let's talk about who's atop of the Sunbelt. The team still, or the coaches, did pick Troy to win the West there, the defending champion. They got to replace the all-time leading tackler in college football history. They got to replace the center. I think they got another linebacker they got to replace. They have the quarterback coming back, but they do have some voids to fill.
Well, that's sort of the challenges you face, right, on a year-to-year basis. I think when you're a blue blood program, and I mean no disrespect, of course, but when you've done as well as they have over these past couple of years, they ended last year on an 11-game winning streak, right? Very impressive. Right. Arguably the best year they've had in their 22-year FBS history. So that's going to come with some of the departing pieces that you've mentioned. You've got receiver Tez Johnson, who transferred to Oregon, right? Who had 56 catches last year, I believe, led the team in that mark. You talked about center Jake Andrews. He's the highest drafted Trojan since 2018, when the New England Patriots took him in the fourth round this year. And it's funny enough, such a Bill Belichick thing. Did you realize that, he's the highest drafted Trojan since 2018? Well, the last one that got drafted that high was also by the New England Patriots, right? It was another O-lineman in 2018. So that's Bill Belichick and his affinity for small school players. But there are a lot of challenges here. You brought up a lot of them. Again, I think that's sort of the yearly thing that you're going to face when you have as good of a year as they had last year. No, I still think they're an ascending program. I think they got a legit chance to make it back-to-back titles, but they got a bullseye, all right? There's a target on their back, and that O-line, there are some questions for me. I think Jake Andrews was a terrific player. They're going to miss him a lot. An outstanding communicator, help them run that offense. Help the quarterback over there as well, of course, with the checks and protection calls and all that. And I already thought they weren't very good last year in pass protection. So, they got some transfers coming in. There's a chance for them to kind of right the ship up there. But the departure of Jake Andrews and some of the other guys, Tez Johnson at receiver certainly concerns me.
Yeah, Tez is actually Bo Nix's brother, so he's going to go play with Bo Nix. All right, so one of the things that Troy wants to get, also they could have been on a 12-game winning, on a 12-game or an 11-game winning streak, but they had a Hail Mary against App State. So, in the opening game was a 28-10 loss to Ole Miss, which at the time everybody thought was kind of respectable. All right, Justin Melo, Locked On Sunbelt. He's from the Draft Network. All right, let's talk about Gunnar Watson because, it was back and forth between a couple of different quarterbacks last year for Troy. You have Jarrett Dagey and Gunnar Watson, and they went back and forth for most of the season. Watson finished things off. In fact, he came in and basically saved the game against South Alabama that, basically gave Troy the Western Division and in the Sun Belt Championship. He came off the bench and delivered a huge third down play. How can he improve to be a little bit more consistent where maybe it doesn't have to be all the defense and, tough to win a lot of games 10-6 on a regular basis?
I agree. And he's going to have to make some strides, right? I think when you looked at last year, the things that you point out are some of the inconsistencies when it comes to the decision-making. I think he's got to take good care of the football, accuracy issues as well. That's the snap by snap sort of consistencies you want to see from him. You want to see him improve, and you'd like less of that back and forth this year, right? If you can have one answer at the quarterback position, and they think he's the answer, that's what I hear. Then certainly you're going to have a better chance to take a step forward offensively, to have the passing attack play better than it did last year. And I think you said it. You don't want the defense to sort of carry them as much as it did last year. It's really hard, as you said, to win football games in this sort of atmosphere, relying on the defense as heavily as they did last year. Sure, it worked out for them, right? Defending Sun Belt champions. But
sure.
As I said previously, target on your back now, bullseye. And I don't think you're going to be able to do it. Certainly do it again. Repeat that effort just by playing sound defense, as many of those efforts were last year. So they're going to have to be better offensively. They've got to throw the ball with more efficiency, more success. And that really, sort of falls on his shoulders, I'd say.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit different when Troy is the hunted instead of the hunter. Everybody's going to come and give Troy their A game, where maybe before, they had been going, they were on well, that's why John Summerall got the job. The guys there before couldn't, make them a winning program. And, John Summerall ruined it for everybody else in his first year, becomes a Sun Belt champion, a conference championship. That, that puts guys like, Butch Jones and Terry Bowden, in their third year, on the hot seat. And, those guys gotta at least win a little bit, gotta compete, for the most part in the Sun Belt, and they just haven't been able to. So John Summerall kind of ruined it for his compadres in the conference. We're talking Lockdown Sun Belt, your team every day. Justin Melo from the Draft Network hops on. All right, let's talk who I think the favorite is. I covered the team for 3.5 seasons, or 4 seasons. It's the South Alabama Jaguars. I'm just not sure how they have an over-under of 7.5. They could, anything less than 10 wins is going to be a disappointing season. And that's basically running the table in the Sun Belt and maybe losing to Tulane and Oklahoma State. Very easily could win one of those two ball games, if not both of them. And by the time they get to the Sun Belt, they're 3-0 and in the top 25, because take down those two teams and beat Southeastern, and you're going to get ranked real quick.
Absolutely. And Bet Online, who we wrote the article based off their odds, they've got them as the favorites here. That over-under, that does shock me. This is a team that went 10-3 last year, and they went 7-1, within the conference. That one loss, I believe, was the 10-6 loss to Troy, right? And we talked about how Troy can't continue winning games like that.
Right.
That was a midseason loss that really hurt South Alabama, but they're back. They're back in a major way. They look strong. I think head coach Kane Womack has done a terrific job with this program. He's entering his third season. Again, 10-3 last year. They almost ran the table in the conference last year, 7-1. That one hurt them. And I like quarterback Carter Bradley, a former Toledo transfer. I thought he played really, really well for them last year. More than 3,000 passing yards, 28 touchdown passes. He's a good football player. And another year in this system, another year, playing for Kane Womack, I think is really going to help him. And you can see the job that Coach Womack has done when you look at some of the talent they've had there, right? That, to me, that always signals a program on the rise. Thought they had a really good cornerback last year in Darrell Luter Jr., who ends up getting invited to the Senior Bowl, got drafted by the San Francisco 49ers in the 5th round. He was a terrific player. They're going to need to replace him. They had a receiver a couple years ago, right? If my memory serves me correctly. Was it Jalen Tolbert? I think it was, that got drafted.
Yeah, Jalen Tolbert's a couple years ago. He was with the Cowboys. And then Jalen Wayne last year, I think he went undrafted, but he's been in a couple of camps this year. He's very good as well.
But Tolbert was a third-round pick of the Dallas Cowboys, right? I think in 2022, I think it was, the 2022 draft. And he hasn't quite put it together yet. But again, you got a third-round pick one year. You got a fifth-round pick next year in Darrell Luter Jr. This, to me, always signals a program on the rise. And I think it sort of it signals the job that Coach Womack has done with this program. So very excited for them. I'm in full agreement with you. They're conference favorites. The over-under is crazy at 7.5. I mean, you're smashing the over on that all day long. 10-3 last year, as you said. I think they're well positioned to experience a very similar amount of success, if not more, right, to actually win the Sun Belt Championship this year. Anything less than 10 wins, which you said, Dave, would be a major disappointment.
Yeah, so one of those losses was Troy. The other one was UCLA. And I think most South Alabama fans would tell you they had a much better chance to beat UCLA than they had to beat Troy. Troy, they had a drop, an overthrow, and a phantom penalty go against them. But that was their only 3 chances to actually put a touchdown on the board. Against UCLA, if they made a 4th down or potentially actually kicked a field goal, they probably would have won that ball game. But they went for a fake field goal, and it didn't work. But here's the reason why. You talked about Luter leaving, and Jalen Wayne left, and James Jackson left. I know Craig Stevenson, the beat writer for AL.com, thinks Jackson is the biggest loss, but that's basically it. They have like 18 of 22 starters back. CJ Rias, he transferred out. Talk about building a program. In today's day and age, you're never going to get 18 of 22 starters back. And 2 guys that are coming back from injury, Keith Gallman, a safety, and I'll say Steve Wilpong, but he Quinn Blong. I gotta look it up, but I always do that. But he was a linebacker, and he's going to be like an edge rusher this year. These guys have been part of the program for a long time. That's why it's mind-boggling that you lose a couple of key pieces. I understand it, but that's it. I mean, just nobody anymore is coming back with basically 20 of 22 starters. It just does not happen. Quentin Wilfong. That's it. He's the linebacker. And so,
well, you said it, Dave. I mean,
yeah.
When you can return 20 plus starters, today's day and age, everyone wants to hop into the transfer portal. We know how NIL has sort of altered the landscape of college football forever. Guys want to leave early. They want to jump to the league. They're sort of anxious to get paid, get that NFL money. When you can return 20, 22 starters at South Alabama, that makes them rightful conference favorites, in my opinion.
And then you got LaDainian. We haven't even gotten that offensive line. Basically, you're moving the center or the guard to center. And you got LaDainian Webb and Braylon McReynolds. And you got, this Anthony Eager kid's got, almost world-class speed. He's the only guys he's losing to in like the 100-meter dash or the 100-yard dash is Ryan Williams of Saraland. And he's one of the top high school players in the whole country, happens to be in the same area. So it'll be really interesting to see about what South Alabama does this year. We're talking to Justin Melo from the Draft Network. We're previewing the Sun Belt. He wrote an article on draftnetwork.com. Let's talk about, you got Coastal Carolina, and it just seems some serious disrespect. I know Raging Cajun fans are not very fond of Coastal for bailing out of the championship game during the COVID year, but 3-time Sun Belt Player of the Year, Grayson McCall, is back. It's a new head coach. Tim Beck, in his 50s, getting his first head coaching job. They had a lot of inexperienced players last year. When Grayson got hurt, they struggled. But JMU is still working out their quarterback. App State is working out their quarterback. Coastal Carolina picked third in the division. What do you got on Coastal Carolina?
Well, I think you said it, right? The continuity that they have at quarterback, Grayson McCall is the best quarterback in the conference, in my opinion. So having him back, it's massive, and it immediately positions them ahead of JMU and App State and some of the others you mentioned that are still sort of sorting through their quarterback situation. Grayson McCall's terrific. He's an experienced veteran leader. He's accurate. He's had a great grasp on this program, and he's going to keep them in most games. Right? They're going to have a chance to win most of the games they're in because of Grayson McCall. And I bet with the Senior Bowl, by the way, released their watch list today for the 2024 Senior Bowl, and he's on it to no surprise. And I venture that we're going to see Grayson McCall at the 2024 Senior Bowl. I'd be shocked if we did it. And he'll have a lot of fans there. He'll make a lot of friends, right? And when they sit down with him, these NFL coaches, general managers, scouts, they're going to be blown away with his football IQ. They're going to appreciate the way that young man carries himself, and he's going to do his draft stock a favor when that time comes. Really happy for Tim Beck here getting his first opportunity in his 50s, as you said. I thought he's done a terrific job, as the NC State offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach previously. He's going to be good for Grayson McCall, who's a quarterback that, you wonder if he's maxed out at this point, but I don't think he is. And I think Coach Beck is going to be really good for his growth and is going to put him in a really good position to sort of elevate his game to new heights and reach a new ceiling. With that said, anytime you have a first-time head coach and a first-year head coach, there are fair question marks, right? You don't know how Coach Beck is going to be as a head coach because we don't really have any evidence to lean on, right? So I understand what some of the questions are, and I thought Coach Jamie Chadwell was a terrific coach. He decided to take the opportunity at Liberty, so you do wonder what it's going to look like. But ultimately, I'm not too concerned about this program because of Grayson McCall. Again, he's the best quarterback in the conference. He's going to position them to be in most games. He's going to keep them in it. He's going to make them the favorite, right, in most games they play because they've got the best quarterback, the best player on the field almost every time they take the field. So I really like Coastal. I agree with you. They're being slept on, and all of that for me is due to the continuity they have at quarterback.
All right, a couple more questions for Justin Melo. Let's talk about Grayson McCall and Tim Beck. So you have this, they were on a weird RPO, I would call it a freeze option back to my Syracuse days, but, an option, pass run, not only a run pass option, but, like out of the triple option as well. And they can pass it out of that. Or, does Tim Beck try to win ball games with what the offense that they had, which was successful? Or does he install some of his offense that actually may help Grayson McCall at the next level, although they may stumble trying to learn a new offense in Tim Beck's first season?
Well, that's always the tough question, right? Ideally, you'd like to come in and install your offense, right? And I think ultimately that's what Coach Beck will do. You're talking about trying to help guys at the next level, and I mean no disrespect, but coaches, unfortunately, it's a what have you done for me lately? And him entering his first year, there's going to be some pressure on him. It's not always top of the mind concern to try to help a guy at the next level. It's what do I need him to do to make sure I'm doing the best job that I can do here and I can keep my job, right? So I do think most coaches, and I anticipate Coach Beck will feel the same way, are going to want to come in and install their system, right? So I imagine that's what Coach Beck will do. But he's a smart guy. He's a smart coach. He's going to marry the two of them together, right? What concepts can I bring from my offense that I truly believe in, that I think we can have immediate success with? But he's also not going to ignore what Grayson McCall has done well over the last several years, right? I think he's going to try to marry the two, make sure Grayson is comfortable in the offense. They'll keep some of the concepts very familiar to what Grayson has executed at such a high level in recent years. But I also think, of course, Coach Beck, he's going to want to implement some of his own stuff because, hey, coaches, they'll always tell you, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down with my philosophy. I'm going to go down doing what I believe in doing because you never want to have regrets as a coach, right? If you're fired, you never want to look back and say, hey, I didn't really do what I wanted to do, and now we play the what-if game. What if I just sort of stuck to my guns and implemented my scheme and ran this team the way I truly wanted to run it? So I think Coach Beck has a lot of faith in his scheme, and I think he should. I think he's had a lot of success throughout his coaching career on the offensive side of the ball. And at NC State, I thought he did a great job, given what he had to work with there. So he comes in, I think, with a lot of confidence. He's in his 50s, as you said. He's been preparing for this moment, this opportunity, his entire coaching life, which is spread around, 20, close to 20 years now, 25 years now. So he's ready for the moment. I couldn't be more excited for him. And I think he's inherited a terrific job thanks to the continuity that Grayson McCall offers.
I do hear what you're saying. First of all, I don't think what happens this year is going to matter with his job in his first year. But also he had to recruit Grayson back. So Grayson went into the transfer portal. So maybe there was some sort of agreement, and then next year, next season when we got a new quarterback in, then we got all off season to learn it. And I just that's what I would do. I don't know if that's what Tim Beck is going to do. I probably agree. There's going to be some of his concepts in there. And at the same time, that could help Grayson McCall at the next level. All right, you brought up the Senior Bowl. Carter Bradley, his father, Gus Bradley, Colts defensive coordinator, going to have his work cut out for him this year, but that could be because of the Colts offense. Got a cannon for an arm. He's got an NFL arm. How can he take it to the next level? He just has to figure out all right, I don't have to deliver a fastball every single play. I got to get some touch because it did look like when he got frustrated, and he called me out on a little bit. When he got frustrated, he would throw harder, and that doesn't work, when you're a quarterback. He was like, that was Toledo Carter Bradley. He said that wasn't so much with South Alabama. How can Carter Bradley, as we'll wrap it up with you after this, take it to the next level and play in his home stadium, Hancock Whitney Stadium, for the Senior Bowl?
Well, I think you took the words right out of my mouth. It's funny. I was going to use the word touch because I agree with you, Dave. I'd like to see him throw with a little more touch this year than I think he did last season, right? When you've got that cannon of an arm and you're a young quarterback as he is and you're still learning the ropes and trying to get better and prove yourself and all that, sometimes it's a little too easy to want to deliver that fastball every single time and show off the arm strength because it's a trait that NFL teams, general managers, they covet, right? You got to have the arm strength. Really, typically to survive. Not everyone can be Brock Purdy or Mac Jones, right, and survive sort of on the football IQ. So, but I would like to see him take a step forward there, throw with a bit more touch this year. He's going to have an opportunity, I think, to play himself into that mix, right, to go to the 2024 Senior Bowl, and we know how helpful that can be for these young kids. And look, it's going to be tough. I don't think he's guaranteed an invitation by any means. He's got to play well this year. Certainly, I think this class, the upcoming class, and it's I know it feels a little premature to say this maybe, but the 2024 class, I think, is better, certainly, than the 2023 class was. And I didn't, the 2023 class of quarterbacks at the Senior Bowl, in my opinion, it left a little to be desired, in all honesty, right? So certainly over this past 5 years or so, it left a little to be desired. I think they've had some better classes there. And I think you're going to see a really strong class in 2024 based on all the talent that we have at quarterback in college football right now. So he's got his work cut out for him. But look, if he plays well, if he can take a step forward, show more touch, show more accuracy, I think he'll have a great chance to be there in 2024, and that would help his draft stock quite a bit.
There will be no Tyson Badgett slander on this podcast. You're right. I mean, Dane Brugler from The Athletic put a list of 20 senior quarterbacks. See if you can pick 6 for the Senior Bowl. And that doesn't include, the top couple of guys that may, are underclassmen, but that may graduate. So Jim Nagy has his work cut out for him. He is Justin Melo. He is on the Draft Network. Part of the Draft Network. What are you working for over there, thedraftnetwork.com?
Well, we're getting ready for NFL season, right? So exciting. Tomorrow, I've got articles coming out on Trey Lance and that whole situation with the San Francisco 49ers. I got something on TJ Hawkinson and maybe what an extension could look like with the Minnesota Vikings. Him and the Vikings brass are in discussions. I've also got something on Caleb Williams and whether he should or shouldn't declare for the 2024 NFL draft. That's a hot topic right now after he came out and said he hasn't made his decision yet. So daily articles coming your way on the Draft Network, 4 of them per day. I'm doing it. Then once we get to draft season, if you're not familiar, Dave, and your listeners maybe aren't familiar, my sort of bread and butter is an NFL draft interview series. So I sit down with the draft class, and last year I interviewed more than 100 draft picks. I had about 40% of the NFL, the entire draft. And if you include UDFAs, there's a whole bunch more that I did last year leading up. So soon as January hits, from January to April, I will have an interview every single day on the draft. Now, and that's coming up quick. We're already into September here, essentially. So once that series launches, that's my most popular series of the year. That runs, again, January to May, essentially, all the way to the end of the draft there. So and last year, myself, the Draft Network, we partnered with the Senior Bowl, where we started the series a little early, and we did an exclusive interview series with players that were attending the Senior Bowl, all about the Senior Bowl, why they decided to attend. I actually had, Darrell Luter Jr. on that series last year. I had Jalen Tolbert the year before. And then after that series ends, I get full-blown into the regular interview series where I'll have last year I had Will Anderson Jr., and I had a bunch of first-round picks and second-round picks. So the series has taken off. It's grown legs of its own for me. I've been doing it for about 7 or 8 years now. It was my brainchild, and it's really beautiful to see how it's grown for me and how now I don't really have to do as much reaching out as I used to. Players and marketing reps, they reach out to me and say, hey, we want to be a part of the interview series this year. So it's really exciting to see it grow, and I can't wait to kick it off again in January. But we're a few months away from that. So all year long, September to January, we'll be covering the NFL. We'll be covering the NFL draft nonstop, 4 articles a day from me alone at the Draft Network. And of course, all my compadres that do terrific work as well. Ryan Fowler, Damian Parson, Keith Sanchez, our in-house scouts. Lots of NFL draft coverage coming your way year-round.
Trey Lance in 8 total NFL games, 5 touchdowns. Brock Purdy in 6 NFL games, 13 touchdowns. You're welcome. He's Justin Melo from the Draft Network. Really appreciate your time, Justin. We'll hopefully catch up again and enjoy the football.
Thanks so much, Dave. Thanks for having me. Have a good one.
All right, that went long. I'm sorry.
No worries. I'm a talker. It always happens. Every show I do, it happens to me. I think it's my fault. I'm the common denominator, so no worries. Appreciate you.
So it is, in case you're talking to other people, all right, his name is actually Darrell. It's spelled Darrell.
Oh, yeah.
Darrell Reuter.
I always screw that. I talked to him 3 times, and I always screw that one up. But
well, of course, because it looks like Darrell.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
It is Darrell. And he's the nicest guy. Him and Jay.
He is. I talked to him, exchange text messages with him when he was going through it. Really, really great guy. I congratulated him when he heard his name called, and he got back to me. He's a terrific human being.
Yeah, we not last year, but 2 years ago, the only quarterback I didn't have because I was doing the show in Mobile, and no one wants to come on with me, so I could drop Nagy's name. I got all of the quarterbacks except Sam Howell, and Nagy. When he came up there, he was working out in Pensacola. He was a little withdrawn, a little quiet, so I'm not sure how great an interview he would be. Nagy said he had like a tough upbringing, so he may not have been great. Did you get a chance to talk to Sam pre? Because he was a little bit quiet. He was sitting next to Bailey Zappi, and Zappi was yapping away.
I did. I talked to both those guys. I talked to Sam that year. I've got, in all honesty, between you and I've got a really, really good relationship with his agent.
Okay.
I typically interview every single client that his agent represents throughout the process because they're big fans of my series. So I did get with him thanks to the agent. I want to say that I had a really good interview with him, if I recall correct. It's up on the Draft Network. You could go read it if you'd like. Like, it's still up there. If you go to the Draft Network and type up Sam Howell, it'll say interview series Sam Howell by Justin Melo. I want to say it was a really good one, but not to pat myself on the back. I think most likely his agent, more than anyone, probably sits his clients down and says, hey, this interview series is a fairly big deal. Make sure you give Justin great long answers. You do a good job with it because it gets a lot of eyeballs on it. So I do remember talking to Sam, yes.
But that's a written series?
It's a written series. That's correct.
So that's the difference, right? So that's the difference. He's going to sound good because of what the answers are going to tell you. If he's on the radio and he's quiet and giving me short answers.
Yeah, for sure. Makes a huge difference. In all honesty, that's why I love doing the written series, because I feel like it gives me a bit more wiggle room, and guys tend to be a bit more comfortable with